if I just move across here to this site, and this is literally right on the edge, and I bring up one of the other layers here, I'm going to turn off the list of buildings because in a minute they'll just get in the way. There's another tab here, it's called the Building Sites and Monuments. And this is what Matthew had up earlier. So these are all the little dots that appear everywhere. And you can see there's a collection of blue dots here. So you can see they're post-medieval features. And you're going to find that most of the features in Redreef are post-medieval, and almost all of them will relate to the changes during mining. There are some exceptions, and I'll look at those in a second. But if we just look at these for now, so you can see these are, I think it's Wheel Harmony. Good, yeah. Wheel Harmony. Okay. Now at the moment it doesn't look like much, but again, if we go back to the base mapping and we turn off the aerial photo cover and we go back to the first edition Ordnance Survey, you can see that it was quite an extensive system. You can then look at the second edition Ordnance Survey, and you can see that it's starting to go out of use already. So that's 1906. So we can date its kind of, I would argue its heyday by the looks of it, is somewhere between probably 1860 and 1900. And from that point on, over the next 5 years, it starts to go into decline. Now, my colleague, who's far more conscientious than I am, has been going through and creating polygons for some of these features. So if we turn the polygon on, and then we go back to the base mapping, and we put back in the aerial photograph, you can see that none of those buildings exist anymore. But we've recorded where they were in the record. So when they come looking for planning permission for this site, though I suspect it's already been done, all of these features will be taken into consideration. So they come to us and they ask for a commercial search, and the commercial search basically identifies anything like this that we've got a record of. And then because it's in the HER, they're required to at least take notice of it. If we move down into Redreef itself, Redreef is quite interesting because it's always been a relatively large town for Cornwall. And at a certain point in the past, I don't know exactly when it was, but it was the late 1800s. They're not listed on here. I think Matthew might know, I think they were done as part of the kind of first edition Ordnance Survey, but they did town plans. And Redreef is one of, I think, only 8 places in Cornwall that has a town plan. And that's important. I'm going to turn these layers up again because I can't see anything. And that's important because if you look at the first edition mapping, it's kind of good, but it does break up. So if we look at Fairmeadow, for example, and the area around it, you can't get too far in because it gets a bit horrible. So with the town plans, they were done at a different resolution and they were done much more carefully, and they mapped the individual trees. So you can see really clearly how things have developed. Now we've got these sliders, which are unfortunate in some ways because they allow you to see what was there and what is now there. So you can see that actually in this area, it hasn't changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Other places where it has. So this is the kind of area where I'd be interested in looking, because this is the kind of area where you might well get survival of original buildings, especially when you can see simple footprints. Now Fairmeadow is quite interesting. So if we bring the layer up, you'll also see that if I just bring the points up because it makes it easier. If I pull out, you'll be able to see the extent of the town plan. You'll be able to see that it doesn't actually go that far. Get rid of that aerial photo. Here we go. Can you see it's just literally this area? But you can see this collection of green features in the middle here. Now the green features are medieval. So what you're seeing there is potentially the medieval core of Redreef, and this is the area that it possibly started and then expanded from. So again, this is an area where I would focus attention if I were just doing simple research, because this is a place that you may well find survival, though I would guess, knowing Redreef as I do, that most of this is now gone. However, Fairmeadow is still there as a feature, and it was the Fairmeadow, which has then been converted into a car park.
Yeah.
Okay. So what should we look at? All right, so if we go back to the layers, if I bring up the listed buildings now, see, still no grade 1s, obviously anyway. Lots of grade 2 listed buildings. And there should be a grade 2 star just here. So this grade 2 star building is Murdoch House. And I'll just use this one as an example. So when you click on it, you'll end up with this little flyout. You can move that around, by the way. It's got a string on it, so you can put it out of the way. This hyperlink will open a new window, and that will give you the listing detail for Murdoch House. Some of them will be a lot, some of them will be pretty much nothing. There are some that are 2 lines, there are some that are 8 pages. The majority, I would say, are about this size, so they're a short description. Below, you'll get a map, and on here somewhere is the triangle which will describe where it is. It's not easy to spot, which is why I prefer these things that we've created that are much easier to find. So that's the list of buildings. They all work in exactly the same way, whether grade 1, grade 2, and these links will always take you to the listing detail, or they will take it to something that we've created which contains the listing detail. So we've just copied these from the Historic England ones, and they are copied word for word verbatim. If we've got extra information, then we'll add it in, but they will always contain the full listing detail. So you can see this one's quite extensive. I think this one might have been redone recently,